Thursday, July 20th, 2017. I'm Michael Smith. Gonna continue my discussion. I had a video that I did by the mountain, but evidently I didn't have everything I wanted to talk about because I didn't even talk about the whole thing I even brought up in my mind. So the first thing I was gonna bring up, or that I did bring up, was my first UFO experience. And I was 17. It was about the year 2000. When I was working at Foot Locker. I was on lunch outside eating my pizza, and there was a lightning / thunderstorm or rainstorm, and as I'm eating my pizza, there's some balls of light, like 2 or 3 of them, and they zoom across the sky above me all the way to Superstition Mountain. And if you're familiar with Arizona, it's probably about a good 40 to 50 miles away from the location I was at. So I'm watching, and I'm not even paying attention, but I am, and the balls of light go in and out of the clouds, through the lightning, almost as if they're like charging up, and it's starting to sprinkle now or something. The trees are doing it. And as soon as they get done going through the clouds, they bail, and they bounce all through the sky right above my head again, so another 40, 50 miles, and all this happened within 30 seconds to a minute. So after I realized what I just saw and what I was looking at, it just kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was just in awe, like, what did I just witness? And that was my first experience ever. The second experience was, and I talked about it before in a previous video, was on October 23rd, 2013. I just lost my job. I was having some pretty crazy times at that moment between me and my wife. She what seemed to be almost lost her life through a medical condition. She pulled through, and this day we're out driving, and in the middle of the night, after being out on the road all day and just looking at stars, I pulled over to look at a shooting star that just didn't make quite any sense. And through the course of looking in the sky, all of a sudden the light comes and disappears, and it just starts coming towards us. And it was probably about a good 100 yards ahead of us, like above us, and just went right over us and over the mountain of Superstition. So that was the other experience that pretty much changed my life, because it wasn't that experience alone, but that set the course in action of the path that I'm on now. Because from that period is when all this started, like research started happening. Like I was already half researching the Anunnaki moment I talked about yesterday, was like in 07. This is a good 6 years later. So there was minimal research prior to then, and then after this point I really started going head in, and it was based off of that one experience. It just started getting me in that direction like no tomorrow. Like after that point, it probably was about 2 weeks in, and I heard this video on YouTube called the Pleiadian message, and I just stumbled across it. And one of the main ways I would do my research is that YouTube would offer recommended videos, and almost in relation to things I was already looking up or things I was watching, things that would catch my interest all the way. So I would rely on that heavily, so much so that I started, figuring it was coming from energies of sort, because it was too coincidental in the directions it would take me in. So this particular morning, I heard the Pleiadian message, and the Pleiadian message is about a good 14-minute long video. I was getting ready in the morning, and after that video's going off, like the entire time I'm hearing it, my chills are just going haywire. And through the course of my learning, chills have become my sixth sense. Like whenever I have a moment of either of divinity, of feeling the presence, of feeling any kind of moment is supposed to be happening at that very moment, chills go up my spine, through my whole body, goosebumps basically. And it's only in particular moments. So I've learned to decipher that, I need to listen to them, and I have to listen to them. So, and it was this particular morning that actually came about, like listening to the Pleiadian message, the whole entire 14 minutes. I mean, even points of pause in the video that just weren't talking were still sending chills through me, almost like I was supposed to hear that message when I heard that message, how I heard that message. And it was really odd, really strange. I mean, because some of these alien things go a little far out there, but I don't think everyone is half wrong. They're more right than they are wrong in the alien aspect, the alien category. And there's just some differences that I want to get to when I cover my belief about it. But from that point forward, it kind of just kept moving forward. And I think even like that night or very soon after, I had a dream, and it was of aliens. That I climbed a hill, and these aliens were glowing, and it was like they were taking dirt samples or something, and they had this little force field around them but it was as if it was their air. Oh my gosh, I got sprinklers going off. And it was like it was the air, and they gave me a chip on the back of my neck, and from that point I was able to talk with them, and they were just basically stating, you know, how they were happy to meet me and happy to finally get to know me, and like weird things. And in this dream, I took off and I went to my friends and I was like, hey, you know, I met these aliens, like it's basically like it's time, you know, like crazy. So that was just another moment that kind of stuck out to me. But the main thing I wanted to get to was DMT, and it's funny that these sprinklers are going off because every time I bring up DMT, it seems like I have a hurdle with trying to get this message across, and I thought maybe this was the platform. But DMT is dimethyltryptamine. It's a natural byproduct within our body's chemistry, and it's in every living organism actually, like, and it's highly concentrated in trees, acacia trees, but we have the ayahuasca root, we got the mimosa hostilis, that's, you know, what I'm familiar with. But dimethyltryptamine, you can produce it in a form where you can actually vaporize it and have an experience that only lasts about 10 to 15 minutes. If you ingest it, it will last, you know, a good 6 to 8 hours, and this is the ayahuasca retreats that are becoming popular, and it has to do with DMT. Well, dimethyltryptamine is the natural chemical produced within the body. When the individual will pass away, the brain will stay alive for a period of 6 to 8 minutes. But through that 6 to 8 minutes, you know, you have no more heart pumping, no more blood pumping, no more oxygen going. So the body has to create its own artificial way of staying alive, in a sense. So what it does is it induces chemicals inside your brain to keep your brain conscious for a period of that 6 to 8 minutes. And as it's doing that, is my belief that, you know, this is when DMT is introduced, and this is when the near-death experiences occur. That's when you have these visions with God, being out of body. But half of it isn't because it's just made up in your mind, but half of it is because you're tethered into your physical body, and then you are finally let go of, in a sense, when you come to those moments. But in the same breath of being let go of from your physical tethered body, your brain is also just being bombarded with the chemicals that the brain is trying to physically introduce into your system. So through this process is when you get DMT naturally. Now, I discussed it, I think, minimally in another video, maybe not, but there's actually a yogic pose that requires taking the tongue behind your uvula and tickling the top palate, and it introduces a DMT that way also. And it's one of highly guarded secret poses and yogi practices, I guess, from my learning that I've learned. So it's a manual way of introducing dimethyltryptamine. Another way of introducing dimethyltryptamine is by going into dark areas and staying out of light for 48 to 72 hours. Now, if you're familiar with any mystery school or anything like Jesus' teachings, or even that of the Judaic and Abraham, and you have all these individuals from the Judaic culture that talk about going into caves and meditating and praying, basically. Well, they're going into caves to cut themselves off from the dark or from the light so they can sit in the dark, and the body will naturally induce dimethyltryptamine into the body when no light has entered into your cells. So that's another ironic, weird part. But it's believed that when you enter these caves or when you have these near-death experiences, that you were experiencing a higher power, or like a godlike being, or like in most cases an alien-like presence. And what is alien abductions? Bright lights, going on a ship, and having a presence, being introduced by aliens, being talked to by aliens. If you ever been introduced to DMT, the vaporized form, you may start to change your opinion on whether or not this is so, because the beings that you are introduced with when those moments occur are pretty realistic, and they can convince you otherwise if you don't believe in supernatural beings. They will introduce themselves, and they will be present, and there will be different levels of them, and you will start to understand how the energy maybe truly works. And I think this is why shamans and anybody else of any kind of culture who've introduced themselves to some form of hallucinogenic like DMT, because LSD and psilocybin, which are mushrooms, all get close, but DMT is one of the strongest produced hallucinogenics just because of strictly concentration. I think I went a little bit over than I wanted to in this video. I was trying to make it short again. The first one was short, this one not so much, but at least it was steady and fluid and informational. There's all a method to the madness is the reason why I bring this up, but understand dimethyltryptamine has the ability to make you feel like you're experiencing higher powers. sometimes as higher powers in the form of God to people, and sometimes as higher powers in the form of aliens to people. And again, what you believe is what you are. Like, you are what you believe. You will basically create or manifest that of what is in your belief system. So if aliens are in your belief system intensely, that'll be the experience you more than likely experience. But we'll continue tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. I appreciate everybody. Love you.